Doctor, thank you kindly for taking care of my sisters. I hope you will excuse me for intruding upon Rhodes Island for a little while. Please call me Chongyue. It's a name given to me by an old friend of mine. The spring comes and goes, leaving a lonely autumn. You would like to be my kung fu recorder? The way Rhodes Island treats its guests truly moves me. It is no wonder my sisters love this place so much. I misunderstand? No problem. I have no qualms with being your subordinate either.
Hello everybody, my name is Ludwig and this is Operator Overview. The operator I'll be reviewing is Chongyue, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Chongyue is a 6-star guard of the fighter branch. Trait of the archetype, blocks one enemy. So Chongyue's also his base stats. If you notice, he has an extremely fast attack interval. So that means Chongyue attacks very quickly, which is a trait of the fighter branch mainly. So they block one enemy, so that's not the best. They're typically known by they have extremely fast, rapid hitting attacks, but they have a low base attack. If you see, Chongyue's attack is not too high, and the fighter branch has trouble. Their main weakness is with high defense enemies. High defense enemies, basically, it doesn't really matter how many times you attack, how quickly you attack. If you still do only like 10 damage, they're still going to take no damage. So he can somewhat alleviate this with his high attack multipliers, which we'll go over a little later. And he is very powerful, but it does require a little bit of time for him to reach that maximum potential. At the beginning, dropping him, he's not really that great when you first drop him. He's not gonna probably lane hold. He has one block. He has no self-sustain. Yeah, he has trouble. But later on, he can become really powerful. But as a general rule, the fighter branch has trouble with high defense enemies. It's kind of like that. I don't know if any of you have played Metal Gear, is it Rising or Revengeance? The meme with Senator Armstrong and basically Raiden, or whatever his name is, I think he's punching him a bunch of times. It's basically that, but it does absolutely nothing to him. It's basically that. That's basically the fighter branch. Like, though they can attack a bunch, but like, it doesn't really matter when you're being blocked by all the defense that the enemy has. Other than that, he has pretty standard stats. The biggest thing, he does have a very cheap deployment cost. It is the same, I believe, as Mountain, his other fighter counterpart, which Mountain will get his own overview, and Mountain is a whole another powerhouse unit, but Mountain has the ability through skills to become a 2-block operator, so that does alleviate some of the problems there. Alright. Moving on, operator profile. Chongyue is from the faction Su. His operator description: Chongyue, self-proclaimed simple warrior visiting from Yan, but no one's ever seen him in true action. Operator quote: though there are few tricks to learning martial arts, and the less trick there is to something, the harder it is. Profile. Chongyue, the elder brother of landship residents Neon Dusk and Ling. He has a close relationship with government organizations such as the Yanni's Ministry of War and the Sioux Regulator. Previously served as a martial arts instructor at the nomadic city Yumen, a position which he has resigned from. He came to Rhodes Island to visit his family, and after a round of audits, he is temporarily residing on board the landship as a visitor. Chongyue possesses rich combat experience and has provided Rhodes Island his unique combat suggestions. However, as requested by Dr. Calcit, Chongyue rarely participates in missions directly. His character voice in EN is Yongye, and Japanese Toshihiko Seki. I apologize in advance. Alright. Operator backstory. Chongyue is, as the eldest of all siblings of Su, the Yanni's Farenmont, Shu was the first to obtain human conscience following his fragmentation and sought to find his meaning of life in the mortal realm. While witnessing countless wars and bloodshed, he was also amazed by Yan's age-old that still retains the Empire's might. To seek the true meaning of Wu, whether it be a conflict for war or martial arts for peace, he concealed his Farenmont nature inside his magical sword, remodeling his body into that of a mortal man under the name Chongyue, a pseudonym given by his deceased comrade, and an elegy describing his eternal mission and his amazement of the mortal realm. Now a human, Chongyue volunteered to serve the Imperial Court as the Imperial Guard's Grand Master. For ages, he has been quietly defending the garrison city of Yumen from the threats of the Northern Collapsals and the surviving Farenmuts. As an excellent martial artist who masters all kung fu and military philosophy across Xi'an, he also spreads his knowledge to the soldiers through real-life combat and scrolls archived by them. Despite his achievements, the immortal Grandmaster could only witness his dear comrades and disciples fading into dust one by one. He is now tired of eternal conflicts, wishing to seek inner peace inside himself, hence his eventual retirement after requesting it from the Imperial Court. As Su's revival draws nigh, Chongyue too embarks on his mission to defy his destiny together with his entrusted sister Ling and younger siblings Neon and Dusk. And now we have Shu and the middle child Shu, one of his sisters, and we have one of his younger brothers in Yu, which is a during Blaze's CN event. Blaze Altar event. So, debut event and banner. Chongyue debuted in the event Where Vernal Winds Will Never Blow, and his banner was Solitude Universal alongside Lin. Alright. Moving on. Module, Fighter X When to Wake Up. Stage 1, he gains some HP, attack, and defense. He gains a new trait. His block 1 enemy, he now has 15% dodge. So he has an extra 15% dodge, which is physical dodge. And stage 2, he gains more HP, attack, and defense. And all our guests improve, which is one of his talents. Chongyue recovers 4 skill points if he defeats at least one enemy with a skill. For stage 3, more HP, attack, and defense. All our guests are improved again. He recovers 4 skill points if he defeats at least one enemy with a skill. If no enemies defeated, Chongyue recovers 1 skill point. So this improves his skill cycling, as for instance, his skill 3, which I'll cover later, you want to use it 5 times. You have to use that skill 5 times for it to basically become an auto-activated AFK skill. But basically this is going to improve his cycling early game. So you place him down, and if he defeats an enemy, so if you time your skill and you defeat the enemy with that skill, you gain 4 skill points. Even at stage 3, if you do not defeat the enemy, you still gain 1 skill point. So it does help his skill cycling, but once you've gotten past stage 5, it doesn't really matter as much. It still is nice, but the biggest thing is it helps you get to that first 5 skills for his skill 3, which is his main skill. He has another module, Fighter Y. This is a CN right now. This is only on the CN server. Global does not have it, but I figured I'd cover it. So Fighter Y Shu, which is his name, and I'm going to assume on the right, the artwork, that is his magical blade, as he basically concealed his nature as a Farenmut into the blade when he became a mortal man. So he gets attack and defense, no HP, new trait, while above a 50% health points, attack speed plus 10. Stage 2, he gets more attack and defense, and an end to war, his other talent, 23% chance for normal attacks to increase the damage Chongyue deals to the target by 70% for 2.5 seconds. I believe without stage 2, it is a 65% chance, and without potentials. We'll go over it a little bit later. Stage 3, he gets more attack and defense, and an end to war is improved again. He gets 75% damage for 2.5 seconds instead of 70. So the biggest thing is that he loses the HP, but he gains attack and defense. He gains more attack and defense though than his X module. Defense 30 and 35, attack 75, attack 45. So it honestly, I haven't tested it because I am on the global server. I'm pretty sure this would probably give him better DPS. The extra attack, Chongyue relies on attack multipliers, so any base attack will multiply basically by his attack. So if I give him 75 extra attack, he will now have a better multiplier because it's just going to multiply that extra base attack and make it just really a lot. He's going to do a lot more damage. So defense is nice. The attack speed is very nice because he attacks very quickly. He attacks quickly already, so him attacking even faster is even better. And the damage increase also will help him do even more damage with the talent improvements. but the skill cycling is not going to be as quick as compared to his first module. For his module X, it will be faster for skill cycling, but I do like the trait on this one better, as the 15% physical dodge is, while nice to have, it's not really that impactful, as the attack speed allows him to attack faster, and I like that more than just a sort of random, finicky, it's a gimmicky dodge. And it can help him, but typically, I mean, he's probably gonna get hit anyways. So, Talent 1, an End to War, which improves at potential 5, 23%, plus 2% chance for normal attacks to increase the damage Chongyue deals to the target by 65%, plus 5% at pot 5 for 2.5 seconds. So, with module, he will just go up to 75% at stage 3, and the base effect is 65%, but if you have plus 5, it will now go to, I believe, 80%. So that's really good, and just increases his damage. So, and because Chongyue attacks so rapidly, it's very easy to usually apply this talent. Now, it's still a chance-based effect, so you have a chance for normal attacks to increase the damage, but it's pretty, with the, especially if you have Fighter Y, with the attack speed improvement, he's going to basically just be attacking faster. So that means more hits equals more chance to hopefully apply this talent. This talent, it has a visual effect, so if you see Chongyue just attacking enemies, the enemy that has this talent on them, applied to them, will have sort of like this wind effect around them. It's like a mist, sort of like wind and earth effect, and that indicates that this talent is applied to that enemy. And that's about it. So the attack speed increase from his attack speed in general as a fighter is already great, so you're already gonna probably apply this, but if you add in the Fighter Y, it's even better. So it's just a nice damage increase, so that's about it. Talent 2, All Our Guests. Chongyue recovers 3 skill points if he defeats at least one enemy with a skill. So you gain, with Module X, you're gaining 1 skill point difference. You get 4 skill points if he defeats an enemy, and you get 1 at stage 3, you get 1 skill point even if you don't defeat an enemy. This is a great skill, just for cycling his skills in general. In general, I think I'd probably use Fighter Y, because he has Talent 2 just already. So yes, you gain 1 skill point difference, you gain 4, and you gain 1 even if you don't kill the enemy, but I think the attack speed increase and his Talent 1 improvement is just going to increase his damage further, instead of, because once you're basically gotten his skill already activated, you don't really need, it just auto activates, so you don't really need the extra 1 skill point, or yeah, so it's nice to have, but I'd rather have the increase to his Talent 1 for more damage, and I'd rather have the attack speed personally. So I'll probably get that whenever it comes to the global server. So, but they're both good, and I still have Module X upgraded, so, and that's about it. Right. For mastery recommendations, skill 3, mastery 3 is his signature skill. He becomes basically an AFK lane holder. So after you use the skill 5 times, which is an offensive recovery, so Chongyue has to actually attack the enemies, and then he will use the skill. You need to use the skill 5 times, and then it will auto-activate. It basically becomes an AFK skill. It will extend his range in like a cross pattern across from him, left, right, and above and down. And it will auto-activate, it will deal damage based on a multiplier, scaling off of his base attack. His attacks will hit twice, and he deals damage in extra time. It's just his premier, best skill. For skill 2, this is a mastery 3 if you want, but it's not really it's not his signature skill. This is more if you want to use him in a different way. He gets a attack multiplier, he attacks up to 4 enemies, he gets an increased range around him, and he can levitate enemies, but they have to be affected by his first talent, and the skill will deal extra damage to enemies that he levitates. So, a little bit of wording here. Chongyue has to basically apply his first talent. So the wind effect has to be on the enemy, so they have that mist wind effect. Then he has to use skill 2 once. The skill 2 has 2 charges. he uses the first charge to levitate the enemy. So first charge, levitate enemy, but then you have to use his second charge to get the increased damage. He only gets the increased damage if he has applied his levitate from this skill. You cannot, I do not believe it works with anybody else. So if you use levitate from, I think like maybe Irene, I think she has a levitate, it will not affect him. It has to be applied through Chongyue himself. It's a powerful skill that is pretty nice if you're playing integrated strategies as you're using him before Elite 2, but besides that, it's not really that interesting. It's good, but compared to his third, it's not great. But integrated strategies can make a really good use of this skill. So his skill 1 is not really interesting. It's a burst damage skill. It just allows him, but it has no area of effect. It just does damage. It does burst damage, and that's about it. So I don't rate it as highly. I would leave it at level 7. Skill 1, Abundant. Offensive recovery, manual trigger, no duration, initial SP 0, SP cost 3, duration none. Deals 400% attack as physical damage to the target when at maximum charges, removes all charges, and deals damage for each charge removed. So the max charges is 3. He has to, with offense recovery, he has to attack the enemies to gain skill points. It does a nice multiplier, so it does 400% of his attack as physical damage. And it has a strange effect. It has a burst effect at maximum charges. It will remove all charge and deal damage for each charge, but it's still just a single target skill. It is a single target skill that just does damage to one enemy that he's fighting, which is nice, but not really that amazing. So it's okay, I guess, but I wouldn't really use it. There's no real reason to use it, especially when you have skill 2, Whisk. Auto recovery, manual trigger, no duration, initial SP 9, SP cost 10, duration none. Whisk is an auto recovery, which is unusual. Usually they're offense recovery for fighters, but it is an auto recovery. It deals 450% attack as physical damage to up to 4 enemies and causes targets affected by talent 1 to levitate. Then removes levitate from all enemies with levitate, activates talent 1 on them with 100% chance, and deals 650% attack as physical damage. So, as I talked about earlier, you have to, it has a little bit of range around Chongyue, but not really that far away. He deals 450% multiplier. It is an auto recovery skill. He has to apply his talent 1 to an enemy first. So they have to have the wind effect, the earth and wind effect on them, and then you have to then use this skill once with the first charge to then levitate the enemy. But levitate only lasts for 2.2 seconds, I believe. Just 2 seconds in general. That's it, 2 seconds. So that means right after you levitate them, you need to have probably the second charge pretty soon to then levitate, to then use this skill again, to then activate his talent 1 on them again, so he does more damage, and then he deals 650% attack as physical damage. It's just, while nice, it's too gimmicky to really reliably pull off, as typically, well, if it's a weaker enemy, they're gonna die anyways. If it's a boss, they only take they have half the duration of levitate, I believe. So, and some are immune to it, so it's pretty unreliable to get just the extra 650% multiplier instead of the 450. So it's a good skill though. Like I said, integrated strategies, it's nice, but the first stage can, I guess, target aerial enemies, so that's cool, I guess, but I don't really see a use really for that. I'm sure there is maybe one, but yeah, in general, it's good and really good for integrated strategies before you get him Elite 2'd, but the auto recovery is nice. Besides that though, it's not, the second feature of the skill is too difficult, I think, in general to activate. The first features I think are fine. It has a pretty good multiplier and he can hit more enemies, up to 4, so that's pretty nice. So alright. Skill 3, Anata. Offensive recovery, manual trigger, no duration, initial SP 0, SP cost 8, duration and not non-existent. Deals 380% attack as physical damage to the target and nearby enemies. After this skill has been used 5 times, Chongyue's attack range increases and attacks hit twice. This skill becomes auto-activated and deals damage in extra time. This is his signature skill. It has a less multiplier than the other skills we were going over, but he makes up for it by having a further range. He gets a cross range, so Chongyue has a range that is left of him, right of him, and up and down, then that's it. But it's pretty decently far, and it allows him to hit multiple lanes. If you position Chongyue in an area, you can put him in an area to cover multiple lanes, which is really nice, depending on the stage. He has an AoE sort of, so when he does the skill, he can hit, it's a splash damage. It has splash damage radius of 0.8 tiles, so he can hit multiple enemies if they're near each other. He hits twice. The skill becomes auto-activated, so it's an AFK skill. He will auto attack basically, and he will deal damage at extra time. So the hit twice is nice. So he hits twice with the extra splash, which is nice. He has damage. He deals another instance of damage in extra time. He can engage enemies further away. He allows him to burst enemies down very reliably. The biggest thing is you have to charge the skill, so it requires 5 uses of the skill, which means they have to be basically attacked by Chongyue, and he has to then be able to use the skill 5 total times. This is not exactly difficult to do, but it can be gimmicky, and sometimes the stage, by the time you get Chongyue's skill, depending on the stage, I mean, if you have any other operators that defeat enemies before he can defeat them, or then he won't ever use the skill. So you really need, basically, you place him down, and you have to place down your other operators maybe a little later, because if they defeat the enemies, he won't be able to activate, he won't be able to gain skill points, and if he's not able to get skill points, he can't use the skill. So other than that though, it is a very good lane holding and burst damage skill. For synergies, Chongyue has quite a few, I suppose. Any operator who can increase his base attack will increase his effectiveness. As we were talking about a little bit with his modules, because his modules always increase base stats somehow. So because his modules increase his attack, his base attack, it will actually help a lot because of the multipliers. It's getting like with skill 3, it's 380% of his base attack. So having more base attack is really helpful. Scotty the Corrupting Heart skill 2 will provide inspiration buff to any operator in her range, but it will boost base stats. So her skill 3 will also boost just attack. So her skill 2 boosts defense and attack. So you get both defense and attack, and it's infinite duration. Scotty the Corrupting Heart skill 3 will only boost attack, and it's not infinite duration, but it will boost attack more. It lasts only about 30 seconds, but it will boost attack at a higher number. They'll get more, the operators will get more attack than skill 2, but it doesn't last as long. It's not infinite. So for instance, an elite 2 max level max trust Scotty with skill 2 mastery 3 will boost an elite 2 max level max trust no module Chongyue's base attack from 650 to 916, which will then be multiplied by his skill modifiers. So, and this becomes even better if you're using his module, but in short, that is a big jump. 650 to 916, I mean, from my, like, it allows him to just hit so much harder and deal with higher defense enemies, because that extra attack gives him, is then just, that attack is multiplied, and that just does so much extra damage. So I highly recommend somebody to increase his base stats. It's not only Scotty the Corrupting Heart, I just put her there because I actually have Scotty, so I just used her. Besides that, placing an operator before, if you're using his skill 3, placing an operator behind Chongyue is really helpful, because Chongyue has no self-sustain. So unlike Mountain, his other counterpart in the fighter branch, Chongyue needs his skill 3 to be used 5 times. He needs to get his skill 3 activated as soon as possible, but he also has 1 block, so if there's more than 1 enemy and he doesn't defeat them fast enough, he's not blocking them, so they'll leak past him. So putting some sort of defender, and he can't heal, so putting somebody like a guardian defender like Shu, his sister, and Saria, or some type of way to heal him while he's charging his skill will really help him. I say guardian defenders are probably some of the best just because they will heal and block for him. So you place Chongyue in front, you place the guardian defender behind him, and then they will heal him if he gets low, and they will block enemies so he can get his skill. He can use his skill 3 more often and hopefully activate it before more enemies come. Because once he activates his skill 3, he can basically deal with most threats before they even reach him. So yeah. For the criteria, for subjective, I personally like this character because character design, lore, artwork, voice, presence, story, faction, character relations, two siblings, style, etc. So Chongyue is a pretty cool character. He's like I really like his E2 art. I think it looks pretty cool. It's also animated, so it's nice. He has also I haven't really read a lot of the story about him, but from what I read for this overview, he was pretty cool. He's basically he's like the first Su sibling, the first fragment, and he's just a martial artist who does, I think, kung fu, and other martial arts, and just, yeah, he throws hands with basically anything. So I mean, it's pretty cool. And it's also very interesting how he's just a mortal man, basically, technically, because he put the Vernal nature inside his sword. He concealed it. So he basically is not using his sword anymore, so that he's basically weaker, and yet he's still like super powerful. So then again, he is basically like a fragment of like a god, so that's pretty cool. So other than that, I mean, there's not much to say. He's a dragon, he's cool. I mean, martial artist, he's a cool, like a wise big brother figure to the other siblings. So yeah. For objective, see, the thing about Chongyue is that he is good unit. I can't say he's not a good unit, and I think it's fun using him. Like, I have fun using him, but one of the things is he is a limited festival headhunting, so you can't really get him super, like, just like the other Su siblings, he's limited. If you didn't get him around when he came, I think you have to wait for the next time he shows up. And the thing is, he's replaceable. At the end of the day, he's replaceable. Is he interesting? Yes. Do I like his character? Yes. Do I like the way his kit works? Yes. I like all of that. The thing is, though, he is replaceable. Physical damage, we have tons of physical damage units. He's a nuker. We also have other physical damage nukers. He has no self-sustain, and he has 1 block. So, now, what he does bring to the table is he is a unique branch fighter. He does have DPS, nuker, synergy, high physical damage, area of effect slightly with his skill 3, multi-hit capability with skill 3, range, skill dependent, also mainly skill 3. So, like, he is good, but let's say, like, if I compare him to some other unit, do I really need him is the question. Like, if you're looking at this objectively and you look at your roster, do you need him? If you need physical DPS and you have Waynar and Silver Ash, do you really need him? If you have Thorns, do you really need him? Quabai is good for, well, that's arts DPS kinda and physical sorta. Like, he does good damage and he's a nuker, but compared to the other nukers like Waynar and Degenbrecher has better burst damage and can punch through high defense enemies while being a 2 block unit with auto recovery for some reason. We'll go over her later, but Waynar is well, we already went over Waynar, giant AoE, tons of physical damage, and it just hits like multiple enemies. He just cleans house. Silver Ash, similar thing, high physical damage. He's not really a nuker, but he is technically, to me. I mean, he's high burst damage. That's the way I think of nuker, high burst damage, and that's kind of really about it. So, he's not bad, but he's easily sort of replaceable. Like, it's kind of like I go out of my way to bring Chongyue. Like, so I go into my squad building and I go to see what operators I have, and I'm like, oh, okay, who do I want to use? And I'm like, oh, how about we use Chongyue, because he's fun and because he can cover multiple lanes. And then I use a skill and he definitely works. He's great. And it works out fine because I have somebody to block for him and stuff. And then it's great. And then I realize, oh, I could have also just brought Waynar. So what I'm trying to say here is in the objective tier is Chongyue is really good, but you have to upgrade him. So like if you're really like, should you really upgrade Chongyue compared to like Waynar? And then I upgraded Waynar and now you don't need Chongyue really. So like, yes, there are certain circumstances he excels in, but in general he is replaceable by other operators because, I mean, what he brings to the table is just more damage, which is nice, but he's still at the end of the day a 1 block unit who suffers against high defense enemies, so, which can be definitely a problem. And you also have to upgrade him, so you upgrade him, but you could have upgraded somebody more vital and more important. That's the way I'm looking at this objectively. Like, okay, I could upgrade Chongyue, but then I gotta get his, I gotta get his Mastery 3 on his skill 3, I gotta Elite 2 him, I gotta level him up, when I could also be leveling I could level Ainz or Blaze, and they can, for a different purpose, so you could use those resources and invest them somewhere else. That's kind of the way I'm looking at this objectively, but in general, resources are unlimited, so I upgraded him because I thought he was cool, so I don't really have I don't have a point really here, since I already leveled him up to Mastery 3 and all that. I am 9'd him for some reason, I don't know. I felt like it, I guess. So, I wasted resources on skills I would probably never use, but it looks cool whenever I click Chongyue, it says, mastered, so that's, alright, we're moving on. In conclusion, Chongyue is just he's a good operator, but he requires time, just like Waynar, to build up you can use his skill 5 times, and then he will become a really, really powerful, like, powerhouse, but he still needs somebody to heal. He needs somebody to block for him before skill, and he needs somebody to heal him because he'll probably die by himself. So, and that's really about it. There's not much to say. He's a cool dragon. He's a cool older brother of the Su siblings. He's wise, etc. And he has really cool Elite 2 art. So that's really about it. So, trivia. Leitmotif, where Tidings sweep. Chongyue's real name, Shu, is a character that refers to the first day of a month in traditional Chinese calendar, the month of the first new moon. It has an underlying meaning of the alpha beginning. The full body of Su can be seen in Chongyue's Elite 2 skin. This alludes to the fact that among the fragments, Chongyue bears the most resemblance to Su, as he is the oldest of the siblings and bears the same color theme and sword-like tail. Chongyue's skill as a kung fu master represents the famous Chinese martial arts and philosophy of war. Much like his sister Ling, his characteristics represent the Zhongyue, I don't know how to say this, culture. I'm not going to try it again because we'll probably butcher it, so. Alright, that's about it. Chongyue's a cool character. If you do pick him up, he'll be pretty fun, but I wish you luck because he's a limited festival, I think, so that's going to be interesting. And the next overviews will be Mudrock's next, and then Typhon. So, yeah. I will see you all in the next overview, and have a good night.
The colors that once embellished the autumn grass, hues long buried by war. The times are changing, and man along with them. So too does the scenery change. Doctor, your title reminds me of the Yanese scholars. Experienced and knowledgeable. They see the forest for the trees. You feel like we have met before? It's true that after awakening from my dream of chaos, I have traveled to many places. Sadly, the more friends I make, the lonelier I feel. Perhaps we are alike in that respect. As you can see, I note down only my experiences and insights, rather than any specific kung fu moves. What really matters to the martial arts is yi, your intent. If you let yourself be constrained by those gaudy forms, you will find it hard to break out of them. Take Dusk's paintings, for example. If I couldn't grasp the intent behind them and sought to discuss techniques and styles with her, she would only shut the door on my face. I agreed to be a fight choreographer for Nian's movie. It keeps her from making too much of a racket or getting too lonely. Dusk is timid, and Ling is too fond of drink. I will look after them as well. We are far from a normal family. Nevertheless, we are siblings, and not the collective we, as we are often called. Death is a daily occurrence to warriors on campaign. But the real challenge they face is preserving their humanity and morality after facing such morbidity, rather growing jaded and desensitized. Indeed, conflicts and mortality have been the way of these lands for eons, but only those giant, terrible creatures are cold-hearted enough to think so. The world is a vast place, and wonderful sceneries abound. Yet man has limited strength and time. It is impossible to see all these sights, much less defend them. To those who practice the martial arts, all we can do is train day and night, from the depths of winter to the height of summer. It may sound like a clumsy and brutish method, but the result is giving every last drop you have, leaving no regrets. That sword is an unwanted possession that must not be cast away. Huai Tianpei, keeping it is an outcome that all concerned parties can accept. My duel with him, you ask? He trained for 40 years and landed a single heavy blow on me. But how many comings and goings of spring and autumn have I trained? All things considered, I was the one who lost. Who am I? For this question, you need only gaze upon the water. Be it human, beast, mountains, foggy woods, or the reflection of the twin moons on the night sky, whatever it is you see, that is your answer. As for the distant, radically different future, whether we siblings will return to chaos and seek new answers is an entirely different question. The scholars at court seek perfect answers in everything. The kung fu practitioners who wander in Jianghu seek revenge, status, glory, or a simple resolution. Their obsessions run deep, yet their time runs short. Often they spend their whole lifetimes chasing a single ideal or undertaking. Hey, all those people. How woeful and pitiful. How respectable and regrettable. Often I think about those soldiers who traveled from all corners of Great Yan to Umen. They risked their lives in battle until death took them, or their age crept upon themselves. Yet never for their own ends. You calmly place your pieces to plot your victory. Doctor, a Weiqi player like you is a truly rare sight. 1,000 armies move at the beating of your war drums, with a handful of sand to clean the blood from one's armor. What a tremendous victory! There is never a true victory in brandishing a sword and formulating a strategy, while looking for gains and losses is an even greater folly. So long as you leave no regrets, then all is well. All warriors must face defeat. Don't lose heart.